Welcome to the One Mindful Minute, your very oasis of daily well being in the busy world. You may already know you have the power to transform your world, but have you fully tapped into it? In this podcast, I'll share how to unlock the power to enhance your life through the art of living well. With insightful interviews and guided practices, we'll uncover the secrets to inner calm and wellness. It is time to tune in and transform.
Welcome back to this episode. And in this episode, I am so excited to have my friend Stacy Schaefer here with me to join and share her wonderful journey of transitioning from being a lawyer to being a medium. So it's a new career transition for her. And this should be really, really fun. So welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And, I have to say, I guess it's not the usual career transition you might have heard of. And it certainly wasn't something I really ever thought of until it was sort of just right in front of me. But one thing I also want to say, even before we begin, is, you can be a lawyer and be a medium. It's just you can't do it at the same time, right? You can't using different faculties, but both have to do with using your mind, using your ability to communicate, using your ability to, even negotiate in some ways, but it has to really do with like the focus, your mind focus, and obviously communication.
Totally, totally. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. So how did you get started on this journey of transitioning to different career path that is not very normal, not like you're going to move from one firm to the other?
Yeah, not traditional. Well, I suppose I've always been kind of a high vibration type of a person. I've always sort of been curious about things that one could call spiritual or even maybe occult, although occult has a lot of like baggage to it, I think, but it really just means hidden. So I've always been interested in kind of the things that are hidden knowledge, not the obvious kind of knowledge. And the truth is I had experiences like, I guess, probably as far back as 25 years ago. I knew something was going to happen, but it was the kind of knowledge that I received through like an auditory message. All right. So I didn't expect that. I expected people are clairvoyant, and that's what I'm going to try to focus on. But then I heard something, and it was difficult to take. So of course, back then I had no mentor, I had no training really to speak of, and there was no internet, even really 25 years ago, or it was in its real infancy. And so I was sort of left to my own devices, and my own devices said, "Oh my God, you're nuts." Because that's what sort of the general knowledge would say is, you're hearing voices, you must be crazy. So, but the truth is what I heard in my mind actually did come to pass, and it came to pass very shortly thereafter, like within 1 to 2 weeks. And so I thought there must be something here, but I didn't really like explore it. I was going through a lot of life transitions at the time, none of which I need to get into, but they were very heavy and they were, just really difficult. And actually, what ensued was a period of deep depression after I had that first sort of awakening. And I wanted to be a lawyer. Like I was practicing law. Like this was what I thought I was going to be doing in the world. And of course, I wanted to have a family, and so then I did. But if I kind of I could go through my entire life story, but I won't, just in the interest of time. But round about, I don't know, 2014, 15, I was working as an attorney at a nonprofit in Manhattan, New York. And I was going to get my lunch, and I was crossing the street at 53rd and Madison Avenue. And I literally just heard, again, I hear, "Clear the channel." And this time I didn't think I was crazy. It had been, at least, I don't know, can't do the math, like 15 years since I had that first experience. And I thought, okay, clear the channel. And I didn't really know what that meant, but it it got me to explore, right? It got me curious. Like, what does that mean to clear the channel? Well, you clear your vessel, right? You clear, like as a medium, you are the vessel. I didn't know that then. And so it really just set me on a journey of self-exploration. And in terms of relating it to what you do, which is, mindfulness practice. Like mindfulness is actually a very, very key to what it is that I do as part of the training, I would say, as part of the developing factor. Now, that doesn't mean that if you practice mindfulness, all of a sudden one day you're going to end up being a medium. Like there was a certain,
Hey,
don't worry.
That's not an automation.
Don't worry. There was a certain, at some point, there was a certain amount of intentionality that I had to pursue this. Now, there are some people that, they come into the world and they're mediums and they'll see spirit here, there, and everywhere. And that's not me. I'm very intentional about it. I do it so that I can help people, and not that other people aren't doing it for that, but usually if I'm not working, I'm not trying to read, essentially. Now, sometimes I can get information kind of just because I'm intuitive. And that has kind of gotten me into some pickles, but it's never been like, ooh, I see spirit around. No, I don't go around the world doing that. So, but I hope I answered your original question. I mean, how do you make this transition? It's a very long, drawn out transition. And I had to have a lot of support from the close people around me. I had to kind of even come to terms with it, because it's not the kind of thing that, it's more accepted today, I think, than it was 25 years ago, but it's still not the usual. And, every day it's a new day, and it's definitely a process still. I'm still in development and processing every day.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. It's like you said, it really takes a lot of being in the present moment in order to notice that voice that's trying to communicate with you or through you, right?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
to pick up a sign or signs that will show up, and you kind of have to be here. And if you're not here, you're not going to know, you're not going to be able to get the clear message, or you're just going to get something like, I call this like a drip messages, right? It just come, and then when you try to negotiate, you mentioned negotiating earlier, when you try to negotiate, and then you're not going to get anything back, because because maybe your mind's already somewhere else instead of being in the moment.
Yes, and there's a lot of like clearing that has to be done, like clear the channel. I mean, it really said everything. It was you have to really be paying attention to what's happening right now with intentionality, right? Which is sort of like what mindfulness is, right? Being present in the moment with intention. So if my mind is off in like the 5,000 things I have to do, on my to-do list, then I can't really be here, right, in the present moment. And everything is happening now. And we all know that from mindfulness practice, mindfulness study. But it's the same with if I'm tapping into spirit or into intuition, my mind can't be preoccupied. I have to be very open and clear and present in order to receive, because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not really doing much of anything except being open to receiving the spirit that comes to communicate through me, because I'm just the conduit. I'm just the medium. That's what it is. That's why they call them mediums. I'm just the conduit. So one must be very open for that. And by clear, I also mean silent, like on the inside. So I can't be thinking about like an agenda that I have. What am I going to say next? Because I don't know what I'm going to say next, right? I don't know. And so, it's interesting. In fact, I'm like teaching this in a class that I'm doing right now. It's a circle about developing your intuition. And the biggest challenge that I have with people is that they have an agenda of what they think that I should be teaching them, or what, they think intuition is, or whatever their agenda is, right? Or what they even just want to say to the person that they're working with. Like they want to find the answer for the other person, but that's not exactly what developing your intuition is. It's receiving data from a higher source.
That is really cool. So if you are interested in learning to be a medium, or even not to be a medium, but just to tap into a different part of yourself, that, to tap into your intuition, that's what you would call it, right? To be able to have this skill, this new skill set. So how long is your course? How long does it take to be able to tap into that? Are you able to give exact time? Just in case listeners out there are curious to know, like, okay, I never hear anything. I don't think I'm very intuitive at all. And this is going to crack that code.
Well, it's interesting because everybody wants to know, or a lot of people have these programs like, 6 weeks to your fully developed intuition. And I mean, I can't say that I can guarantee like results in 6 weeks. It's so personal. It's really, it could be, yes, you can have results today, right? Like you can have results today, but if it requires you to be somebody who is completely different than somebody you have been for the whole rest of your life up until this moment, then no. Because most people can't let go of that like this, and I certainly couldn't. I mean, I always, first of all, development takes your entire life. So we're always developing, we're always growing, we're always learning, right? But the code is really to be able to drop your ego, your past, your future. Like you have to be able to be really here and really present. And that is extremely difficult for most people. I mean, even for me, it took, I still have a teacher who teaches me. I have to be the one who is sort of, I hate to use the word hardest on myself. It's not really hard. It's really, I have to be very, very aware of like the feelings that I have, the judgments that I have. I think judgment is possibly one of the biggest barriers to intuition because, if somebody gets an intuitive hit, like anybody can get an intuitive hit, but what do people say to that? That was nothing. Listen to that. That wasn't anything, right? So a lot of people will just dismiss their intuition, right? Some people are confusing their intuition for their anxiety and their worry. They're different. They're not the same. And so if you tend to be anxious and worrying, like we have to, like one of the things that you would have to try to do is to overcome like that tendency to be anxious and to be a worrier in order to access the information, because that will always get in the way. Like intuition is high, like our worry and our anxiety is not as high. I don't want to say low, but it's just a little bit of a lower vibration than an intuitive hit. And so we can confuse like the mind that worries with like, maybe that's my intuition, but it's not. Usually intuition, it's just a different feeling. And so that's another thing. You have to be very aware of the feelings that you have. And a lot of people are so in their mind that they're not really feeling. So that's another way that mindfulness is good for developing, because you have to be very aware when you're practicing mindfulness, like where you are in the present moment. So it's so interesting because we call it mindfulness in a way, but I think it's mindfulness, but we use the word mind, and sometimes our mind is the thing that's getting in the way. So
very good point.
So it's kind of ironic in a way, I guess. But yeah, so there's no code. There's no, I mean, the secret sauce is really dropping, right? But it's so hard to do because we get very attached to the things like our judgments, right? If you're used to judging people, it's very hard to let that go, right? If you're used to judging yourself, right? So there's a certain amount of, I mean, I'm going to use the word love. There was a great quote I heard. It's like, where there is judgment, there can be no love. And it's true.
Yes, it's going to be hard to love someone when you judge that person, right?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to love yourself if you're judging yourself.
Totally.
So love is an extremely open energy, and judgment is an extremely like narrowing kind of an energy. And when you're using your intuition, you really need to be open. You need to kind of feel that energy of love in its broadest sense.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So okay, I'm gonna ask your secret, your deeper secret of what tools do you or have you been using to help clear the channel? This is just for, someone who is thinking about, oh, maybe if I clear the channel, I'll have some more clarity of which career I want to head to. Maybe this can help them with their career changing as well.
Absolutely. I mean, like, so what are the tools? Certainly meditation is a great tool, right? And the truth is I think we've talked about this before. Like, it's not the kind of meditation that's the competitive meditation. Like, I meditated for 5 hours and, I just achieved nirvana. No, no. You really don't need to use meditation like that. I find anywhere between, I don't know, 10 to 22 minutes. I know 22 is very specific, but it's just fine. And if you even don't have 10 minutes, literally just taking a moment to center yourself and breathe, perfect. So, but meditation is important because, like I said, it is a tool and a technique to try to quiet your mind. It doesn't always work. I mean, I have meditations where I like literally go through my grocery list, my laundry, when do I have to do the laundry? And then I'm like, oh, wait, I should be meditating. Oh, okay. And I have to reset, right? Like, and that constant reset. And I find like, 20 minutes can go by and like the entire time I was thinking about like the things that I have to do, but I don't judge myself for it. And I'm just like, okay, that's what it was today. Maybe I can do a little bit later on. But I do think that like getting centered in yourself and meditating is very helpful for any kind of development practice and essential in a lot of ways. But not this whole like, I meditated for hours long. It's not that. And the truth is that kind of thing that I meditate, how long did you meditate for? I meditate for this long. It's like, that's very ego, right? So once the ego is introduced, then you're not going to get the kind of answers that you need because the ego usually, I mean, a certain teacher of mine, he says edges God out, but it also sort of edges, clarity out in a way, because it's going to be based on fears. It's going to be based on what you think society wants, or what you think your parents wants, or your husband or your significant other. So once you sort of get into that ego vibration, it gets in the way.
Yeah, then you actually, you're actually in your own way.
Exactly.
You have to get out of your own way, right?
Couldn't have said it better, Fawn. Yes, it's exactly right. You have to get out of your own way. Now the truth is like sometimes what will happen, I think, is when people are thinking of career transitions, there are certain practical things that you need to think about, right? It could be that the career you really want to do doesn't, make as much money as you have been making. And so you're going to have to, try to figure those kinds of things out. But I would say, be patient, right? Because you really don't know what can happen, right? You really don't know like what will arise like when you start this exploration of a transition. So I know it can be very nerve-wracking, and that's just that's sort of going to be the question of heart and head, right? What's in my heart, what's in my head, how do I get them to meet? Can I get them to meet?
Yes.
Patience.
Very true, and very good point, because a lot of time that we think changing career because of the financial reason alone isn't really going to serve us very much, and then we'll probably end up be changing career again if that's the main reason we're changing our careers, right? I mean, I don't want to speak for other people, but for myself, I've definitely like thought when I started college, I thought I was going to do something that's probably going to make money, right? I mean, this is probably can apply to a lot of people, or a lot of people can relate it to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you don't, for example, if you don't like engineering, but you go to school for engineering because you think this is the new era of time, and we're going to need a lot more engineers to build our world now, right? And don't and you don't enjoy doing the work that you do, and maybe you're going to end up changing career later on anyway. So, but I'm not saying this is not something that need to happen in someone's life, because we do have our own path that we have to walk. Maybe that's how it needs to happen in order for us to learn about ourselves, to learn about what we actually want to do, and not just for the money, right?
Yeah.
For me, I went to college thinking I was going to do something. I was going to do something that make the money, and also something that I also love. And then I got a little confused at maybe like the first year or the second year, I want to say. But I ended up doing the things. Even I got a bachelor degree in mass communication. Thought I was going to be a DJ, right? And now I'm doing podcasts. So this is the closest DJ I'm going to be.
I love that. I love that you wanted to be a DJ. I think that's great. Well, it's really interesting. I wanted to be a lawyer. I always wanted to be a lawyer. A lot of people didn't, a lot of people were like, really, you want to be a lawyer? And I'm like, yes, I want to be a lawyer. I wasn't really thinking about the money, actually. But when I went into it, I just knew that that was something that I wanted to do, that, it could lead to good money. But, in the practice, in the end, it just, I mean, look, when I left a job that I loved, I absolutely loved it. I actually went to get a higher degree in the law. So a lot of the things that have happened since I did that, that was like almost 8 years ago now. I'm just as surprised as maybe the next person, right? That things happen the way that they did. I also had, I said, I talked to you about, clearing the channel, but I also had a dream too that I listened to. I had a dream where I felt something kind of pressing on the small of my back. And it's very unusual, I think, to have a dream where you actually feel that, like, like something's pressing on you in real time, because I could feel it while I was asleep. And the voice said, let me in. And I said, well, I don't know how. And the voice then said, find a teacher. And I got to tell you, 2 weeks to the day, I found a teacher. Yeah, I found a teacher. She's still my teacher. And she's incredible. So I've also been, I could say I'm lucky. I always say it out loud. I say I'm very lucky. And maybe that somehow draws luck to me. I don't know, but I do feel in that sense, like that's very lucky, like to have that kind of a dream. And then, because I didn't go out then looking for the teacher, somebody suggested to me, oh, you might like this person. So, that's lucky, or that's being in the right place at the right time. So, in some ways, a lot of it is about your attitude, right? I think that it's easy to get discouraged, right? It's easy to get confused and not know, and then that can lead to a lot of discouragement, right? Because you're trying to find all the answers right away instead of letting things evolve and develop over time, right? I mean, you might want to make a career move, but there's nothing that says you necessarily have to do it today, unless, for whatever reason, you might be forced to do it today, right? But I do think if you have sort of the luxury to plan, to let things develop, then, and then to sort of, work on yourself too. It's not just about like, I'm at this job now and I want that job over there. It's about personal growth and personal development too. Like, clearing the channel is not, you have to get things out of the way, right? In order to do that. And there was a lot of stuff in the way, let me tell you. I mean, not perfect. I'm not a perfect person by any stretch of the imagination. I have a lot of problems and a lot of responsibilities. And, that those problems and those responsibilities, they can weigh on you and get in the way. But, not to say, necessarily to be becoming a medium, right? But I think it's always good to be, working on yourself, no matter like what it is that you're doing, because then you're going to make better and more conscious decisions rather than like being reactive.
I see it as a part of the path that we choose. No matter what path that is, there will always be something that we can learn from. And this is a part of having a life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't have a life, then you won't have any of these problems or responsibilities.
That's right. That's right. And it's so interesting. It's actually funny. My teacher says karma is what you get for having a life, right? Like she's like, most people get karma wrong. It's really, we all have karma because it's what we get for being incarnation, essentially, as human beings. So, we could all go back and have a think about what that means for everybody. But you're right, Fawn. It's basically like we have responsibilities because we have a life.
Yeah, it's one precious life on earth at this time that we can remember, or as far as we can remember, right? Because I can really get into the topic of past lives and different lives. That's how you and I have met, through a past life regression class, right?
We did,
Training.
yes.
So this can be a different episode, another episode on its own.
I love it. Let's do it.
So listeners out there, let us know if you want to hear more, if you want Stacy and I to talk about, the past life or the karma that maybe leads to this life, or anything related to that topic that you might be interested in. Drop us some comments or questions, and I will be sure to share Stacy's links. To where do you hang out, Stacy? Instagram, LinkedIn?
Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, sort of.
Facebook. Okay. So
yeah.
Yeah, you mainly cover almost every single platform except TikTok, right?
Not yet. It could be coming. Who knows? My kids are on TikTok, so maybe I should stay away. But
I haven't tapped into TikTok just yet. So we'll be sure to have all those linked to Stacy, link down below somewhere in the information section for this episode, so you can reach out to Stacy if you like her to be your medium. If you have questions, or if you want to know more about mediumship or her training that she has to offer, be sure to reach out to Stacy. Otherwise, Stacy, before I close this out, do you have anything else to share with the listener?
Well, mostly what I would love to share with everybody is, believe in yourself, do the best you can, and to the extent that you have it, keep the faith.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy, for joining us on this episode. And this episode is brought to you by Head to Heart Wellness, your ultimate wellness partner for employees and organizations. So we hope to see you again in the next episode. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so on YouTube. If you enjoyed this episode or find this episode interesting, please feel free to share and like this episode. We get those kind of encouragement to keep us going on producing more and more valuable information for you. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode and inspired to take the next step in your wellness journey to building more resilient and effective days at home and at work. I want to invite you to get in touch with me to learn more about the customized wellness programs that could benefit your team, your organization, whether it be retreats, workshops, 21-day meditation challenge, you name it. Let us collaborate to supercharge your well-being today.